back with another episode of the Branders Magazine, Talking with Branders podcast. I'm your host, Steven Picanza. Today, joining me in the studio from somewhere else in the world is Vanessa Moulédous. Did I say that right?
Yes, you got it perfect. Thanks, Steven.
Oh, man. Ever since the podcast we did with James Barnard, I'm really hypersensitive on how I pronounce last names. But Vanessa is a branding expert. She's an advisor and a mentor to global startups and scale-ups. And when it comes to launching a brand from the ground up, I don't think there's anyone more well-equipped than Vanessa. Vanessa, welcome to the studio. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you, Steven. I'm really glad I'm with you. And thanks for the honor of being part of your show.
Oh, no, we're honored to have you. So, Vanessa, for those out there who have no idea who you are because they live in
plenty don't know, of course.
Tell everyone, 60 seconds, a little bit about yourself.
Yep, elevator pitch. Okay, so I'm a brand expert of a unique positioning, I would say, because since I moved to Malaysia 3 years and a half ago, I ventured into the tech startup ecosystem. And so instead of being the usual consultant coming in for a job, on branding, I'm living and breathing entrepreneurship every single day. I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs. I'm doing a lot of jobs in that area that are not necessarily directly branding, but still connected to it. You will understand why probably during our discussion. So I'm basically, a brand expert, really dedicated to the success of startups and the founders. So I'm a bit like of a mentor, coach, consultant, advisor in branding and beyond, because even when I say I'm a brand expert, they will still come to me to ask questions about anything and everything.
Right. So basically you're like a therapist.
Somehow, yes, somehow.
I find myself playing that role so often between clients and founders, and we're a sounding board.
Right.
Vanessa, what does branding mean for Vanessa?
So I will quote someone that I really love. She is the brand expert I've been following for years now. Her name is familiar. She's named Denise Leon. She's from the US. Great researcher.
Great friend
amazing.
of ours.
Yes. Yeah. She was on the cover of one of the magazines, Branders magazines. So she says that brand and business are one and the same. And for me, it just captures what branding is, which is managing the experience of the business. A few years back, Accenture, the big consulting firm, they coined this term saying the business of experience. But I think it's true, but actually branding for me is one step beyond, which is the experience of the business. So what it is then to be a brander or branding strategist or brand expert or someone working with a brand is actually to work with a business strategy, as simple as that. Yeah. I try to make it more less complicated for everyone, but that's basically what I'm saying. When you think brand, think business. Whatever you're doing matters. That is branding.
Me. That's such a brilliant definition, and Denise, she's such a profound and prolific thinker.
Yes,
there's only a few people like her out there.
Correct. And she's so able to capture complicated things into very obvious, actually. Once she said it, you're like, yes, of course. But it's so true. Yes, correct, right? This is the power of this kind of mind, brilliant mind.
That's exactly right. Marty Neumeyer, another friend of ours, he talks about the brand and business strategy being two sides of the DNA helix.
Yes,
correct. Right. They're so interlinked. They're so intertwined. One should not exist without the other, right? Because you need it. Otherwise, you're just gonna, just be throwing a dart into the air and hoping that.
Correct. But still, it's not mainstream, I must say. Unfortunately, which is why a lot of us brand strategists, when we go corporate as employees, we end up reporting into the head of communication or head of marketing. No offense, but we mix up corporate strategies with tactical strategies. And so we're not used to the level where we should belong, which is corporate strategy here, business strategy, long-term vision for the business.
That's absolutely right. That long-term plan. Vanessa, how did you get your start? Like, what prompted you to get into branding?
So it's some luck, in life somehow that happens. Basically, when I was 20, out of my business school in France, I was longing for a financial career. Don't ask me why no one in my family was ever in finance, but since I was 7, I so wanted to be there. Maybe because money is where everything is made. I don't know. So I studied 2 years trading electricity. I made the first brokerage deal actually in France when the market started to be deregulated. But 2 years in, and I was really not in my place, really not.
Yeah.
And so I was struggling because I couldn't be my best, this kind of thing where you feel you are not in the right position, in the right place. And so you can't be giving the whole you. So I was kind of in a failure position in a way for myself. So I said enough. And I was kind of dreaming about, okay, what else could you do? What is really what you want to do? And so somehow my mind ventured into communication at large. I had no precise idea, but something more creative. Because I have a full brain, I call that a whole brain, right and left, somehow. And not that it's more brilliant than others, but just it's completely.
But you use the full brain as opposed to.
Yeah, exactly so, right? I could have become a ballerina, so creativity is still there. So I was venturing there, and somehow I decided I should go there. So I quit my job, I quit the career in finance. And then I go where the mountain is. So I go into my alumni, basically networks, and I start to be hosting one network, which is in communication. So for our alumni in communication, media, culture, something like this. So my goal was to be exposed to all those people, understanding what they were doing, and at the same time saying, hey, hello, I'm existing. So if at some point, you need someone, maybe it can be me. And doing so, one day I was hosting an event, emceeing it. And at the end of the event, one alumni I didn't know asked me, hey, what about branding? Because actually our general manager is looking for someone and you would be great. So this is how it all started. I entered the biggest agency in France, actually, and one of the key in the world, just not knowing what I was doing.
Wow.
Just 1 month, just helping out, another team, Sky team account. And from there, the GM said, hey, I'm really happy with you and your personality because, well, at 20 something, what else, is there for you? And the main consultant for Air France is leaving. Do you want the role? And I was like, yeah, sure. So basically, this is how I started. Out of the blue, I had no idea what a Pantone was, nothing. And I must thank you, both the GM and the team back then, because they just mummied me in a way.
Yeah.
I had to be, ready by 1 week. We couldn't say to Air France that I had no background in design, and I was to become the main consultant in corporate branding. So for 1 month, days and nights, I was learning. And so every week I had Air France in front of me for 1 day, reviewing all the creative projects and the brand strategies. And this is how I learned and studied, and I felt super natural to it. The agency said the same to me, so I was like, yeah, okay, maybe this is my call, And since then, I've been passionate about it. So
that's amazing. What a great story.
Yeah, right.
It's like they say, Vanessa, like learning branding, advertising, even marketing to some extent. It's like learning a trade, meaning you learn on the job, right? Yes,
Correct.
You can study it in school. I have a degree in marketing, whatever the fuck that means, right? Because it really means nothing anymore because it was 20 years ago. But what do you learn? You learn every day. You learn on the job. You learn from client presentations that go shitty. You learn from, designs that don't hit the mark or KPIs that are not met. Like those are the learning experiences.
Correct.
So, what an incredible story. So how did you end up in Malaysia?
Husband, actually. So it's been usually, one of the two is leading the way. Right. So it happens that my husband got an opportunity about, 15 years ago, something like this, to go for 6 months abroad while I was in that design agency, actually, 4 years in. And he said to me, it's just for 6 months. I'm going to Australia. I have to deploy a project for my big firm, the Big Four consulting firm. You can come, of course, but if you don't want, that's okay. Just stay in Paris. You have also your career. So I said, are you kidding me? Like, it might be the only time I'm going to live abroad, which is a childhood dream of mine. So of course, I'm just going. And this is how it started, our venture around the world for 15 years. Long story short, Malaysia again came on the table through him. He was hunted down by the competition. So Malaysia was not in the radar at all, but it was COVID time. things in Australia, we were living in Australia back then, were a bit complicated. We thought, maybe it's good to go somewhere else. Maybe the grass is greener during the COVID there. And so, yeah, that's how we decided to go with the kids, and ended up here for as long as we wish to be here, and we're happy with. So far, so good.
Well, that's incredible. Well, the first time ever, Vanessa, making an appearance on the podcast is my little one, Leonardo.
Oh, hello. Hello, you.
Leonardo. He's off to school. Have a good day, buddy. All right, go to mom.
Oh, nice. Have a good day.
It is raining out here in New Jersey, and he's wearing his shark jacket and his shark shoes. So this is a monumental one. He's never been. That's his first podcast appearance, just like you, right?
Yeah. When you say that to me, I feel like at the early of the last century, the countryside girl going to the city.
Oh, how fun!
I feel like this,
But incredible having. I've lived in multiple states. I've lived in Europe for a little bit. It gives you such a different perspective, and within the branding industry, getting outside of your comfort zone, I think this allows us to think differently and more creatively.
Very much
all the time.
For me, it's a key asset.
Yeah. Has living abroad, how has it impacted your career?
In many ways, actually, starting with the choice of leaving my design agency. Very likely, I was super young and a bit, I don't know how to say, bold in a bad way,
Sure.
No consequence. Yeah.
Right, of
we've
course.
all been there, yes.
Right. YOLO, you only live once, so fuck it, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was well educated, I was continuing my brain, it's not too bad. So I thought, I can just go my way, and I will always have something in my life. And so basically studied there because my GM said to me when I said to him, hey, I'm going for 6 months to Australia, so I need to leave the agency. And he said, yeah, but you're not quitting, actually. I keep your role for you because I want you back. So you go, make whatever you want, come back in 6 months. I will hire someone as a replacement. I mean, come on, who has ever been so in a good position that you can just go away and come back, in your same role? And so I said, no, I can't do that because actually it's like a parenthesis. Whereas for me, probably I'm hoping something will get out of this trip,
Right.
So I can't go back to the same thing. So I think first it impacted my career because as we speak, maybe I would be running a good agency in Paris, as we speak, not having made that choice to not come back to the same position 6 months afterwards. It has also impacted my career because there is no career when you follow your husband basically abroad and you hop from a country to a country, basically from France to Australia, back to France, go to Denmark, back to France, Australia, and then Malaysia. That's my 15, latest 15 years. But, you have to see the positive out of anything. This is how I'm thinking. And so for me, it has impacted me in a way that I have to push my boundaries, my personal fears and boundaries, and the way I'm thinking, which is even more outside of the box, I think that I could be as a natural human being. So it has impacted my career, yes, because I don't have a linear career, which is somehow complicated when you hop from a country to another country, because my job is not liquid. First of all, we know it. Brand strategy is not like finance or consulting around the world. So it's not liquid already, but on top of that, I don't have a linear track like agency after agency after agency or in-house, So every time I have to find the right job, the right angle, and some kind of lucky star, to make it happen. But lately, coming to Malaysia, because I'm aging, so I'm not 25 anymore, I'm 45 now, so I'm less bankable in that word, like linear career. I can't go back to a linear career anymore. I don't think it's possible because people still don't understand non-linear careers. They still don't see it, and they still don't understand how actually, as a person, you have to push so much more than others, your soft skills, because you have to adjust to everything, every time, every year, like 3, 4, 5 years. So coming to Malaysia, it has actually really impacted in a very positive, somehow unexpected way, because if I had stayed in Sydney during the COVID and we had our life there, I would still be in a position, like in-house position, I think in branding somehow, probably maybe another company. So linear track back to it. But actually I would have missed all that I'm learning today. When I came to Malaysia, I had to reinvent myself. Every time I have to reinvent myself. which is great for me because I'm living for the future. What can still be there for me,
You're building your personal brand is what you're
Yes,
doing.
exactly,
That's what it all comes down to.
Exactly. So when I came to Malaysia, I thought to myself, okay, what could I do? So after I finished my job here for Australia, I did a tree of possibilities. So basically, putting all my options in the world on a paper or digital paper and saying, okay, what can I do? How can I do it? Because you have one expertise, but many ways to deliver it. So far, you have done agency, you have done in-house, but you were also an entrepreneur at some point. You have that kind of fiber, to be on your own and stuff like this. And what is this market in need of? Here, branding is not as mature as in the US, for instance, which is very advanced a country when it comes to branding. So I had to reinvent myself. And thanks to those moves, I went into entrepreneurship. And I thought, okay, maybe I can help entrepreneurs to be successful by helping them building strong brands and first understanding the power of brand. So I pushed the tech startup ecosystem doors, actually knocking at the doors of accelerators and saying, hey, this is my idea. Can we bounce ideas? What do you think? Is it a good idea, bad idea for the market? And little by little, they just hired me for something different, really with the entrepreneurs. And this is how little by little the red thread became, actually, I'm a brand expert. I can do work for the entrepreneurs, living with them, doing many other things for them. So in a way, traveling abroad, I think, yes, deterred me from a linear career in an agency, probably. But today I can tell I'm quite happy, actually. I'm still not there yet. I'm still building up that career of mine now, which is more into the tech startup ecosystem. But I think without those moves, I wouldn't have even the possibility of thinking differently.
Absolutely. I fully believe that like every choice you make is for a reason.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
And your path, your journey, you're getting there, right?
Yes.
And the agency world isn't for you, and the agency world isn't for a lot of people. I get it. Let's talk about startups. Let's talk about like what is it about the entrepreneurs that like you really enjoy like pulling out of them? Like what's that thing that makes you tick about the way that they work?
Yes. So not the money, first of all, I can tell you. Because this is not where the money is, right? So it's one preconception that you have to push aside. So it's the energy, actually. So it's quite funny because I'm working for many accelerators here, but one particular, which is called Nexia, it's a key player in Malaysia. They have had me pass a test, a personality test, they do that with their entrepreneurs. I'm not so much into it, but actually it was pretty interesting because it revealed that I'm exactly the same energy than those entrepreneurs. So I'm exactly in the same mode.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, a lot of sense to me. So that's why I ventured all the time into creating new things, just on the side of my jobs, I've always hosted communities and ventured into entrepreneurship and stuff like this. And so what I love with them is, first of all, that energy. I love to see ideas come to the reality, around us. Might fail, but I love the fact that those people, they are able to have an idea one day and put that into motion and deliver something, So for me, it's like there's always motion. There's always creativity, which is also a parallel to what I loved in the design agency, which was that bubbling energy all the time. There were ideas after ideas after ideas, it, yeah? So with entrepreneurs, never stopping, never ever. And so what I love is being that brand expert that lives with them. Really, I'm hosting meetings for them, like facilitating programs of accelerations, investment, mentoring in investment programs and stuff like this. I see the whole operational way of the startups. And so I see how they think. And it's fascinating, basically. So when it comes to branding them, I can put them into my shoes as well. And so we exchange this kind of passion. I'm as passionate around branding as they are around entrepreneurship, So we have that same energy. And every time I'm going into, like a few weeks ago, I was at the Kickstart event for an investment program that I'm mentoring. I'm one of the mentors of. And it was just like so fantastic. I'm like super high up energy. And then it's like deflating, And I'm like, how come? So I think this is what I love with entrepreneurs, actually. They might not have the money, they might not have the understanding yet, but I love that we can do something together in that always
build, you can create.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
and that's so important, right? And that goes to show what you were saying earlier about you engaging with your right brain and your left brain, right? It's
Exactly.
like,
I think this
yes,
is
we could be
addressing that.
creative, but we need to make sure that you have a fucking business case for this, that you're
Correct.
solving a
Correct.
problem, that you're not just creating, something out of vanity or something that isn't needed in the world.
Exactly. Exactly.
When dealing with startups, like what's usually the number one thing that they have like a problem with?
So it's funny, it's a very good question because actually, after mentoring quite some of them, I ended up with the very same kind of catalog of questions, let's say. So usually it has to do with they don't know where they're going. So they have a vision, but you know how abused language vision has become somehow
Yeah.
around the world? It's
Yeah.
kind of brainwashing,
Sure.
So they have a vision, but it's like one sentence in their mind. It's super
Yeah.
fluffy. Some of them, they don't even have the right words to express it. So one of the key things they have come up to me with is really the lack of vision, which then has a lot of consequences. I could name a few. Like one day, one of them, they called me like really furious, not against me, but against a journalist from the New York Times that was coming to Malaysia and making a paper on vintage companies. And they happened to be one vintage company doing some e-commerce stuff. And so they were like furious. How come we haven't been interviewed and we're not even in the radar and da da da? So it's brand awareness here because actually they were venturing already, like pivoting into something else out of what they learned on e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
They were pivoting into teaching others how to do e-commerce. Great for the business. But then the image, the positioning was so blurred that the New York Times couldn't even name them because they were not being seen as a vintage company anymore. They were somehow somewhere, but not anymore in the vintage. So that could be one thing, positioning. The target audience. You'll be surprised how many of the startups just ignore their core targets. Though they're working with them, they have data. They are on a lean management process all the time. Still, the iterations out of it, they still don't get who their target is. So it's like very specific
things. Yeah.
Yes,
So you're telling me, Vanessa, that if I had a startup, that the whole world isn't my target audience? Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much.
Wow, what a concept.
Yeah. And I don't want to look down because it's not the way I'm seeing this. It's just that startups, how they are pressured to go to market. That's the key thing in their mind. They are pressured by investors, they are pressured by the next competitor, and they're all product driven still. While the world of large corps is evolving their reasoning and thinking around what is branding, the growth engine to my growth as a business, we're not there yet with the large corps, but it starts there. Startups, they're still ignoring it because everyone has focused them onto the product. So they're so product driven that they're just losing the rest of it.
Yeah.
And so they try to find how that vision can transform into a product that can be accepted by the market.
Yeah.
At some point, they find the target. But honestly, it takes so many iterations.
And it's a lot of wasted time, money, resources to just find it when you could be deliberate, hire a great strategist like yourself.
Correct.
And you can really help shepherd them to understanding what that target market is.
Exactly so.
And I think that goes for any business, right? Like even mature businesses, sometimes they lose clarity to who their target audience is. They lose, or the target market has changed. And I think we've seen that with COVID. We've seen that with, the rise of DTC, the fall of DTC in some regards, right? Like, so like it's a moving target, our target audience.
Correct.
So we need to, and one of the things I always recommend is like, do audience analysis like 2 or 3 times a year, like once a quarter. Just spend a couple days and like, is it still correct? Is it still right? Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of money.
Yeah, great advice.
What about startups who don't understand the power of branding and all they think about is the logo and the colors?
And the marketing.
And the What
Like
do
the
you
large
use?
corps.
What's that?
The large corps.
Yeah, right,
Same.
exactly.
Brand design, brand marketing is branding.
So what do you say to that? What's your response?
So I'm saying to them, you're sitting on the gold mine you are just ignoring. Because basically, we know lots of research have shown it, that in the US, the Standard & Poor's 500 most valued corporations, the average value of the brand is 20%. Apple, 27. So when you are ignorant of the power of branding and the brand as the growth engine of your growth as a business, then you are just sitting on that much amount of money. So of course, as a startup, you are not there yet, precisely, but it doesn't mean you have no value. If you start the branding work, it has a value. It has a value in terms of price point, first of all. So you can price your products much higher. Think Apple versus Samsung, just that,
Yeah.
You can also then, it commands a price point up to 26% more. So it means that actually with the very same effort, somehow, you are getting 26% revenues more, pretty much for free in a way, no more investment in it.
Yeah.
So you're sitting on the gold mine as well from a revenue point of view. And now the branding conversations start to go to the VCs, the investors. So they start to be more mature on the idea. And so the conversation is around the risk. So an investor is a risk-averse person. It's not common to say that, but it is true. Because why on earth should I lose my money with someone I have no idea who it is, how successful it can become in the future, and I have earned that money quite hard, so why should I lose it with you? So yes, I'm a bit of a risk taker, but I have an informed risk management. And so branding informs my risk management, So when I see someone, like two startups having the similar products, and it happened to me like a few weeks ago at a pitching day, where I was one of the judges, they came with exactly the similar product, So how come I can choose you over you? Which one I should invest in? So for me, what I said to the investors around, because I was the only brand strategist, I said to them, the way I'm seeing how we'll go for one or the other is which one is starting the branding work. Because when they start the branding work, they start to work on the loyalty. Yes, trust, preference, loyalty, which means recurrent business. ARR, the recurrent revenues, is a key word amongst investors, and it's one of the key questions during pitching days. So when you are not working on your brand, you are not creating recurrent revenues. So for the investors, what you're saying is, I'm not so investable as you would think so. Because if I had worked on my brand, even if it's just starting, if I show that I have an understanding of the brand, it's a green flag for the investor. It means give him some time, money, effort, resources, mentoring, whatever it takes, and they will build a stronger brand, which means in the future, they will have a better potential of future revenue, healthier future. So when you don't start the job of branding, it's just basically counterproductive to your valuation, your revenues in the future, your price point, the loyalty. Because this word is saturated. There's a great professor I love in the London Business School that is called Dr. Tavoli, if my memory of name is okay. He's the chair of marketing, and he has a great class on brand, business, and behaviors alignment. And what he says in it is that we are living in a perfect competition world, where basically product can't differentiate yourself anymore, only the brand can. So there are so many things you are forgetting when you are not considering your brand. And considering your brand doesn't mean have the best agency in the world, put millions on the table. It's just about starting a minimum viable brand. Starts with some key questions: how, why, what, the usual ones. That's already where you should be. And that many startups don't have even that thinking, because again, they're pressured to go to market. It's product driven, you know? Sorry, I was a bit long.
You just dropped a master class for startups on the power of branding.
Yeah, correct.
Like you just dropped so many gold bombs, so many gold nuggets. I love what you said. The minimal viable brand. I've heard that term before. And that's so important, right? And I think it comes down to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vanessa. It's like too many founders perhaps are product obsessed when they should be customer obsessed. Because if you are
Yes,
customer obsessed, then you're going to create a brand for that customer that they can join, not necessarily buy from, right? Because we want them to join our brand, join our community, join our tribe. Like that's a
true.
whole different mind shift for so many founders.
Correct.
So I can imagine you coming in as a mentor, as a coach, as a therapist. You give so much value and like confidence to them.
I hope so. This is exactly what I want to be for them. Like by this side, the person in the shadow of the founder somehow,
Yeah,
just like whispering, the thing that they have to understand.
you're the guide. You are Yoda, right?
Somehow, no, but it's a big title here. No, but honestly, at some point they just called me. I was telling you for anything and everything now,
Yeah,
because I'm on their side and I'm putting myself every single day in a challenge that is to learn their way of doing entrepreneurship.
yeah,
So I'm not a brand consultant coming from an agency anymore. I've done that before. I've done it in-house. And that changed my mind on branding. The
yeah,
operational view of branding came from my in-house position in local government in Australia before Malaysia. Great experience, place branding. But because I'm there with them, I'm delivering accelerating program for them, facilitating the meetings, talking
yeah,
full day about churn rate and burn rate and ARR. I'm going now to pitching days. Thanks to that great accelerator in XAR, they opened me so many opportunities to be the side of the entrepreneurs. So basically, they trust me in
yeah.
understanding their lives. And so therefore, they can come with many questions outside of branding. But at the end of the day, because business is branding and branding is business, you can't really separate that anymore.
Right.
That's why I really push myself in their shoes to be able to understand what they're talking about, where
Yeah.
their mind is, so that from my angle, which is basically a perception and experience angle, I can help them deliver that into the operations.
Very empathetic of you, right? Putting yourself into their shoes. And I think the best strategists out there, the best branders, the best creative strategists are able to do that in a way that isn't condescending, isn't combative. Like you're just able to do it naturally, and like you build up so much trust with your audience. And now you're at that point to bring it back to the beginning, right, of your journey. Like you're just getting started, right? Like you're just getting started,
Correct.
but
Yes.
you have so many years of success, so many years of trust, and now that trust is being pushed on to these founders that I'm really excited to follow your journey, Vanessa, because I
Oh,
think you're
thank
going to
you.
continue to do amazing things.
Thank you,
Again,
Steven.
if you're a startup, you got to rewind this episode and watch this one again, because Vanessa, you dropped so many good things for founders and for early stage startups. As we wrap up, last question, and then I'll let you do, drop your URLs. But
Sure.
what is it that inspires you to continue to do this work?
Good question. I would think it's the novelty every time, and now even more than before. I'm quite bored quickly, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. So I need to invent myself things to do. So I was telling you while I was working, I always hosted communities of professionals and stuff like this. I invented things in entrepreneurship. So what really motivates me is to think of the future. So for instance, the startups I'm helping today, what are they doing in the future? I would love to see that happening. Like maybe
Yeah.
they will be the next unicorn, maybe they will pivot somewhere else, maybe. So it's constant motion here. So why I'm still doing it is because since the beginning of my career, while I thought branding was design, basically implementation, because I was in that space, I discovered many other facets of the trade, starting with the operational going in-house as a brand manager. And now the startups, I'm completely reinventing my expertise with them. I was telling you I'm mentoring. It's not so common to have a brand strategist mentoring startups, to be honest with you, here, at least in this part of the world. I'm doing also a lot of talks to evangelize on exactly what I just talked with you. So it's somehow I'm super motivated because it's new to me. So the expertise is not new, but the way I'm delivering it is so new, it's so exciting, and I've got to evangelize more and more people. So it's kind of I'm on a mission now to kind of spread out, this word, which is
especially in an emerging market like Malaysia, where
correct.
the art and science of branding isn't as mature as it is here in
It
the
is not.
States, in Europe, in some areas. So it's funny. I've asked this question a lot now. Like, what is the inspiration? A board comes up a lot. Like, I think
Can
there's
you
a lot
imagine?
in the branding world that call it ADHD, call it we just get bored easily, but like we need that constant. And I also think that's why some of us work really well with entrepreneurs. I work really well with entrepreneurs because I like 1,000 things being bounced around. Like I find beauty in chaos. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's a natural order to unorder. I'm full of paradoxes, apparently.
No, I see what you're meaning here. Yeah.
But funny enough, I have a last story. So my first agency ever in 2008, we were looking for a name for our agency, and my business partner at the time, Brian, who now runs a nice, successful agency in Southern California. Everyone would always tell us, "You guys have such great energy. You guys have such great energy. We love your energy." So we were thinking about what names to use, and we came across this interesting insight that the only constant in the universe, right, is energy. Energy is the only constant, no matter where you are. And it was this constant, like it was this motion of the energy that like we were attracted. So we named ourselves Constant Motion Creative. Because energy is the only constant. And interwoven throughout this whole conversation today, Vanessa, is you talking about energy, how you feed off of energy, how you need to constantly be moving, how that motion creates emotion, all of that. So you just kind of gave me a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, I see the link totally. And actually, you just said something I didn't realize, that I need motion all the time. That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
like me, I can't sit
Moving
still. I'm moving to different places. I've lived on both coasts. Like oh, Vanessa, we're going to have you back because I really enjoy speaking.
With great pleasure.
Let everyone know where you live online, how they can get in touch with you, all that good information.
So very easy. First on LinkedIn, Vanessa Moulédous. Malaysia, just type that. I'm the only one, so it's pretty easy. And by the time you release this episode, I will have a page online because now my gigs, let's say, become numerous and different. So people need to understand what I'm really doing in my life. And so the page will be called northyourway.com.
Okay.
Because North, the guiding star in branding, so my little commercial brand, let's say, for now, will be called North.
All right. And we will have links to that in all the show notes. And I'm excited to see that get released. And for more on Branders Magazine, check us out at brandersmagazine.com. Subscribe, like us, get the latest edition of the magazine, which is amazing. Vanessa's in it. I'm in it. Our friend Matt Davies is in it. He's on the cover. So many great powerhouses in there. Keep tuned also for Branders Week 2024 happening sometime in the fall. More details to follow. But you can find that on brandersmagazine.com. And for more on me, you can check me out at stevenpicanza.com or go to themovetic.com, a new venture I am part of. So until next time, everyone, ciao, peace out.